Hi everyone, this is me, International Grandmaster Rashad Babayev. I would like to welcome everyone to my new YouTube channel where I will try to share interesting chess videos, lessons with all chess lovers, and I hope you will enjoy learning from these lessons. You're welcome to participate actively, ask questions, and suggest if you have any interesting things to share, and I will try to do my best to help those chess lovers to get better in chess. Right now, today is our first lesson, and I would like to go ahead and introduce you what we're going to learn today. Today we're going to learn about blockade in chess. Blockade is one of the most common and most important chess elements. Let's try to understand what blockade means, and then we can go ahead and understand position. Blockade is something in chess where you block one of the opponent pieces or square in order to make to limit your opponent options or your opponent possibilities. That usually makes opponent position passive and activates your own position. Let's try to pay attention to position we see on the board and understand more about blockade. This position was played between two grandmasters, Geller Yefim for white and former world champion Vasily Smyslov for black. In this position, as we can see, position is pretty equal. We have same material on the board. King positions, we usually pay attention to these elements, are also fine, looks like. Placement of the pieces, we usually pay attention to this element, and pawn structure. I mean, looking at all those elements do not exactly tell who is better. White has a little space advantage, but they have isolated pawn on a3. Seems like black pawns are also okay, they're connected. So in general, position seems to be equal. But there is one interesting thing we can pay attention to is position of queen, black queen on f5. What does it do and how does it affect this position? Queen on f5 is blocking pawn f4. What does it mean and what we are gaining from blocking the pawn on f4? So blocking one pawn sometimes can mean more than you think. It's not just the pawn. It's not about the pawn. It's not related to this pawn. It's related to position of white and what you do to white pieces. By blocking pawn on f4, we are limiting white bishop. We are limiting white rook on f1, and in general, not letting white to improve their game on the king side and get better in terms of active playing. That's why f5 square is very important, and it's a square which we call blockade square. We block the pawn on f4. But let's go ahead and analyze what happened in this game. Black plays move queen g6. It's very interesting, and I would say one of the most logical moves in this position. Idea of queen g6 to free f5 square for the knight in order to place it there and improve position. And we should also remember that knight is the best piece for blockade in chess. That's why it's very logical why black is trying to regroup pieces and get knight to f5. I personally like move queen g6, but I need to tell queen g6 could be a little premature in this position. Instead of queen g6, I believe it would be better to play knight c4 first and then go with queen g6 idea. But it's alright, let's see what happened. Queen g6 and knight f5 is coming. I would like to suggest to pause the video and think of this position and come up with some kind of decisions you might choose in this position, and then compare it with what happened in the game. Grandmaster with white, Yefim Geller, decides to sacrifice the pawn. And I think it's very critical decision to be made in this situation. Why we are sacrificing pawn and what's going on? The thing is, if we let black to put knight to f5, the rest of the game we're going to struggle with the knight position on f5, and of course with our passive pieces behind the pawn structure. And as I noted before, bishop on g3, and especially these pieces, and especially bishop on g3. That's why white does not want to play passive game, and they want to change something in the game. And for one pawn, they're gaining good and active pieces. Just pay attention now what's happening. The bishop on g3, the rook on f1, knight on b4 can later come to game. I'm showing all these arrows so you can understand better what's happening. And it's all just for one pawn. So that means it's worth it. And after f5, knight f5, white plays rook f3. Idea is pretty obvious. Since we opened f line, we're trying to double up the rooks, and at the same time trying to prevent knight g3 idea. If knight g3, we can take with the rook and attack queen. So rook f3, knight c4 was played, queen c1, attacking pawn on a3, a5. All right, so this is an interesting move, but I personally do not agree with this move, and I need to tell you, and I would like actually to suggest you also to analyze moves which seems to you not that good as you think. It's always nice to understand why grandmasters or strong players are playing moves. What are the ideas of those moves? Despite that this game was played by former world champion, I would say that in this position, the best option for black would be c5, not a5. Why? a5 is something which is helping white to get knight to f4, which was going to happen anyway, so why should we, force it? Instead, I think c5 would be better option for black, and after knight d5, rook d8. And I think bringing last piece to game, the rook on a8 to game, and having open line with all the pressure we have on the board with all the pieces should give black good advantage. And as an approximate line, I can show knight f4, queen g4, bishop f2 to protect, and c takes d. And I believe black is having better position, and they're leading in the game. But unfortunately, black did not choose this option. They played a5, and it helps us to bring knight to game, h4, tempo. Again, all these moves maybe not that forcing, and black could choose other options, but let's try just to focus on blockade and meaning of blockade. And of course, these kind of positions we can analyze for hours. But again, my main goal is to show you elements and to bring it to your attention. h4, bishop f2, queen h5. So what black is trying to do, black is expecting white to play queen f4 next move. This is coming, and the knight will be in trouble, and they're getting ready to free g-pawn in order to play g6 to guard the knight. But in my opinion, queen g4 would have been better move to play. So in case of queen f4, we can trade. And after h3, queen h5. The difference between what happened in the game and this, when pawn is on h3, white is not going to be able to use h3 free square for the rook to come to and attack pawn on h4. So that's, to me, the biggest difference and very important difference. But black played queen h5, and look what happened in the game. Queen f4, attacking knight on f5. I mean g6. Yes, that's what black was going to play, and rook h3. And I want to make a pose here and ask you to pay attention to this position once again, and see what we had in the past when pawn was on f4, right, and what we have now. Just look at that f4 square. Since it's a free square, we're using it for the queen. The rook becomes very active. Bishop is helping us. The knight is always ready to come to game from f4. And again, it's all just for one pawn. That's why don't be scared of sacrificing one pawn to get this much activity in your positions. Rook h3, queen h6. Black is trying to trade queens. This is the most common defensive method. When you're in trouble, trade pieces, simplify the game, and but it doesn't really help black. Knight f5. So right now I can tell you that f6 is a vulnerable square and bishop is just going there, and with the pressure of the rook, we will be threatening rook h8 checkmate, which forces black to block bishop diagonal and prevent rook h8. At the same time, black is planning to play knight h5 and later on trade knight to bishop. But white plays pretty strong move here. I like this move, rook h6. Idea to prevent knight h5 and to plan getting your other rook to game and eventually having checkmate on h8. After rook h6, black's position is pretty critical and they're not finding any better way than sacrificing rook for a bishop. Otherwise, as we see, rook is coming to h3 and black is pretty helpless here. Rook e6, knight f4, they're sacrificing, not sacrificing, I would say this is just giving up rook for the bishop, knight e8, and another interesting moment, you're welcome to pause the video and think of this position, what would you do? Several interesting options white has, but I think what white played in the game is the best. Knight g6. Now we are sacrificing knight for 2 pawns and completely opening black king position with 2 very active rooks on the board, right? And very strong and connected pass pawns. That determines big and decisive advantage for white, and I don't think black has any chance to survive here. Despite that they have 2 minor pieces for 1 rook and 2 pawns. As we know, sometimes two minor pieces are better than rook, 1 pawn, but it really depends on situation. If your rook and those like 2 pawns or 1 pawn you have on the board, they're very active and doing much better things than knights or 2 bishops or knight and bishop, then of course 2 minor pieces will not compensate anything. But you have to be careful, of course, because 2 minor pieces can be pretty strong. In our situation, they are not doing anything. We're just simply getting pawns to queen. After king f8 in the game, white played g4. I will not go ahead and show you the whole game here. Unfortunately, white did not win the game. Yeah, I know it's a little surprising how Grandmaster with such a big advantage does not win the game. It happens. We also make mistakes. He could be in time trouble or other things could affect the result of the game. But in my opinion, here, if white plays rook h6, they are getting even bigger advantage and they're winning the game. And one of the lines could be knight c to d6, getting knight back to game, rook e7. Now we are threatening rook h8 checkmate, as you can see. I'm also showing here by arrows that if knight captures pawn on f6, we have rook e6. If you wish, we can see those lines here. And black is losing one of these pieces. I mean, you can go back and after this, check and winning the rook. So that's why here knight f7 should be played to prevent rook h8. Now rook h7, knight d6 is only move, and g4. g4 planning to push pawn g5, g6, and I think black position is lost. This is how game could have played, but unfortunately, Yefim Geller played differently, and game was drawn. So, dear friends, this was a short lesson about blockade, and I tried to show you one of the most common games, common position about the blockade. This was this game, the position we saw. I believe and I hope that you will learn. Now you will know more about blockade, and you will definitely pay more attention to blockade in your games. And such ideas as knight is one of the best pieces for blockade in chess. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in our next videos. Please subscribe. See you. Bye-bye.